Spray, spray na 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 na, spray na 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 na, na na. You and your smiley face doesn't mean a thing to me. You come round here with your smiley face, but it not work no more. 'Cause after loving you, I had to run. 'Cause it's only a smile you got. Boom, 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 boom. Poo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do. Just imagine that. Just imagine that your best feature is a smile. Not that there's anything wrong with smiles. You know, smiles can be quite powerful. And sometimes, particularly where we come from, in the so-called black community, a lot of the time we don't smile at one another. We're so used to mean mugging, grimacing, you know. I know we live lives under pressure a lot. And a lot of the time we wear that pressure on our faces, you know. So you get the scowl face thing, the push-up face thing, you know. But a smile is so much more powerful. You know, it can be disarming, charming, you know. And I think that's why we get caught up so much with a nice smile. You know, we find ourselves in a real strange position sometimes because of the facade that is put on. And underneath that is all kinds of madness. Yeah. It is what it is, I guess. You know, we find ourselves in a funny position in the UK at the moment with this Brexit thing, you know, and where that's going, this Brexit train, this car crash of a journey out of the European Union, you know, and it's, you know, we've got people scratching their heads who are supposed to be professionals in, if there can be such a thing as a professional person who can understand the ramifications of politicians in parliament battling and negotiating and arguing in order to get the best for the country. That's what they tell us they're doing. You know, we got a lot of smiley faces come general election time. I say general election time because we got a prime minister that hasn't even been elected. You know, come with his bumble face, his Bojo the clown face. You know, that's supposed to be a smile. You know, when you see a clown, they got the smileys painted on to the face. You know, and sometimes a clown is a very miserable character, a very sad character, and can be a very scary character. And that's where we find ourselves today. It's quite, well, it's shocking to me that we are where we are. Because historically, sometimes if you look at history, the history, it always rewards us with the character, the real character of the environment, of the nation, of the community that we are in. It tells us and informs us what was and what is and what is to come. And I think it's one of the reasons why history is not really focused on in education, in the education that our children in the mainstream schools have. History. A lot of people don't know history, even the history of the UK. You know, some of the things that were done to the people, the masses of the people, by those ruling classes not so long ago, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. It is astonishing that we are where we are, about to leave Europe without a deal because the ruling classes are trying to crash us out of Europe without a deal. Yeah? And professional financial analyzers have said that this is bad for the UK. Yet it's almost like being on an airplane with terrorists, and they're gonna crash the plane because it's for their ends. They want to crash the plane for their purposes, and you're just going down with them. That's what it feels like. We're in this crazy situation that we need to take charge of. I don't know how it's going to end. I don't know how. I don't know how this is going to end, but it don't look like it's going to end good. Yeah. Civil war. That's what I mentioned last time when I spoke about this. This can only end in civil war. The country is divided in two. Yeah. And it may not be civil war in the way that we know civil war, expect civil war to be. The civil war could manifest in Ireland. There's this crazy situation in Ireland. Some of Ireland is controlled, north of Ireland is controlled by the UK, and the southern Ireland is controlled by Ireland. And that's got to be a bad thing. No one ever talks about it. It's got to be a bad thing. Anyway, that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. This is episode 91, 92. We're in the 90s anyway, episode 90s. And one of the things about doing so many episodes, you start off, when I started off episode 1 talking about camera gear, and it becomes a gear channel, but it never really was about gear. It's something that I'm interested in, photography. I'm interested in photography and videography. I'm a multiple media manager, hence the title, yeah? Something I'm interested in, but over the episodes, we must cover more important things than just gear, what we use our gear for, the events that we shoot, the moments that we capture, the long-term projects. These are the things that will be remembered in years to come. No one cares what camera you use or what brand you use. No one really cares. I mean, it's something that us as, people who are into this thing, we battle over it and we talk about it, and it's, new cameras come out and we get excited. But this is basically a tool. It's a shovel. Canon brings out a new shovel. Was it better than the shovel before? Was it better than Sony's shovel? This is the arguments that we have, which does my head in, to be honest. What's more important to me is what we're doing in these moments, like these moments of Brexit, like these moments in local community, where we're having a situation where young people are killing or appear to be killing each other in great numbers. These are the things that I'm interested in, because this is the story. These are the moments that in years to come will be left, if we captured them, for the next generation to learn from. And I think my generation have not captured nowhere near enough of our experience here in the UK to inform the next generation coming up, our children, to give them a ladder to stand on to move in the direction that we would like them to move into. Just this week, I've been speaking and teaching my daughter, Black Madge. She's 10 years old. I took her to an exhibition over in Somerset House, Get Up, Stand Up. Horace Ove? Zach Ove? Yeah. Brilliant exhibition. one of the best that I've been to. If you haven't been to see it, go and see it. It's about 50 years of history of black people in the UK and our struggles on a daily basis to survive, to thrive, to find a way forward, to find our own fingerprint, our own identity, and to make motion with that. You know, and it's really important. It's such a crucial thing to have your own identity, to form your own identity, and not have one formed for you by the environment, by the media, by whoever it is that decides all our young people are going to be walking down the street with Adidas sliders saying, yeah, bruv, and all that. See, this is what's happened to us. We've allowed it to happen to us because I think we haven't taken enough snapshots, enough memories, enough images, enough of our culture and presented it to our children in the way that it needs to be presented. Yeah? We've allowed other people to do that. We send our children to school, or we send our children wherever it is, or we put them in front of the TV. And the television does not have, or the media does not present us with a proper, accurate reflection of ourselves. So why we do that and expect anything other than where we are now is beyond me, in truth. You know, so just this week we've been looking at the Windrush generation, you know, the war, the Second World War. I was explaining to her about the Second World War, and we went online and we looked at some of the images of what the Germans did in bombing London, and also, you know, looking at the history of why London and the cities became targeted by the Germans, you know, because it's often left out that Britain bombed German cities before the Germans bombed the UK cities. So we looked at all of that history, and we looked at how, you know, London looked, you know, the Blitz spirit, and how London looked after it was pummeled. I mean, London was battered. It got battered, broken up, torn up. It looked like some wasteland after the Blitz. And how, you know, our parents were brought in after the war to help to rebuild that place. Because this is not really talked about in the media. You know, the fact that there were black soldiers, black Air Force pilots, black sailors fighting in the Second World War, this thing is not made clear in the media. And it's our responsibility, those of us who know how to shape and tell stories, to be telling these stories and to be teaching our children. So we went through all of that. We went through the, you know, the story of why black churches came into existence, because white churches wouldn't allow black people into their churches for fear of congregations being lost. We looked at why black community came into existence, because white community didn't want black people in their spaces, in their clubs, in their pubs, because they would lose their own, you know, followings. So we had to form our own. You know, this is really important to know, that black community is a response to rejection from the wider society. So fast forward to 2019, you know, we have Carnival and all these things that we take for granted. Carnival, Notting Hill Carnival, was born out of the fact that there were so-called race riots. They called them race riots. They weren't actually, well, it was a race riot, but the race riot was because black people came into that area from the Windrush generation, and white people didn't want them there. So they would hunt black people at night, beat them, batter them, and even kill them. This is not made clear. So the black groups at the time in the 1950s came together to protect black people and to fight back against the teddy boys and the it was the Teddy Boys, who would nightly it was called nigger hunting. Let's say it how it was called, nigger hunting. So the black groups fought back, the white groups fought back again, and this thing went on for weeks, months. This is not made clear, So in 1958, to clear the tension between black and white in Notting Hill, after a racist murder, which kind of like was like, that finished it for everybody. That kind of like, people were saying like, enough is enough. That kind of like set the scene for something which had to be done to bring the two communities together. That was Notting Hill Carnival. That was the attempt to bring two sides, two sets of people, both British, together. That was the birth of the Notting Hill Carnival that we go to every year and dance and skin out and do all kinds of madness, never actually thinking about what was the purpose of it in the first place. The Notting Hill Carnival wasn't necessarily black or white. It was to bring both together. That's what it was. So it's important to know these things, to study these things, so that you can not lose sight of why things are the way they are. We have a so-called black community now where, I can, people call me up when I do events. I shoot events, and a lot of the events, I'd say 99.9% of them are in the black community. That's not because we don't care about the white society. That's because people from outside our community do not call on us to report on their things, and the wider society are not reporting on ours. So we have to do it ourselves. So when you are a black photographer, or a photographer who happens to be black, it's really difficult, but you've got to make that decision, because there is a whole history of stuff that happened before we came along, and the wider society doesn't necessarily focus on that history, doesn't necessarily know that history. So in truth, my role is to extend that and bring that to you through my channel. I've spoken about this before, but it's so important that it has to be reiterated over and over and over. If all I do is repeat the same things that I see other people, other photographers, white photographers doing on their channel, how does that bring together the society to the place where it needs to be for the 21st century, in this so-called time of Brexit, where masses of people in the UK seem to be trying to rewind things back to those days of empire, which makes no sense to me. That makes no sense to me. I mean, I understand to a certain extent, there's nothing wrong with wanting to control your own destiny. And I said it in the last video I made on this. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to be sovereign and you want to control your own path and your own program. Everybody wants to do that. But if the body that controls that destiny, or is set to control that destiny, is crazy, can't agree nothing, will lie, will cheat, will steal, and you've got history on them. We have history on the ruling classes in the UK treating the poor classes of white people in the UK like trash, like fodder. There's history. It's not even that distant. It's quite recent. Early 1900s. Upstairs, downstairs. We have history on it. I was talking to someone the other day and telling them about I remember the days when the River Thames was a slimy biological dead zone. Yeah? The River Thames that runs past the seat of government used to stink. Yeah? There was nothing living in there. It was slimy. It was like a sewer. And the people in Parliament, the government of the day, refused to even clean up their own Thames River. You know, so that the people, the masses of people could enjoy their own capital river. It was Europe that forced them to do that. It was Europe that forced the UK to clean up the beaches, its own beaches, for its own citizens. It was Europe that forced Britain, that forced London to clean up their own air quality for the citizens. It wasn't Parliament. Parliament don't give a damn. So we got people smiling up their face come election time. Will you vote for me? Vote for us and we will take back power for you. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And we got to be smarter than that now. We got to be smarter than that on a national level, and we got to be smarter than that on a local level. You know, our children are in some crazy civil war with one another. They're in a crazy civil war, and we as parents have to take them out of that civil war. And part of the reason I think they're in the civil war is because this history of us here in the UK has been forgotten. It's been left out. You know, mainstream school ain't going to teach them that. We got to teach them that, you know. It's one of the reasons I don't have a TV. I don't have a TV. There's nothing on there, from what I can remember, that is actually benefiting me as a person, you know, of black extraction. So it's a funny one today. It's a kind of rant, kind of refocusing look at where we're going and where I'm going as the life and times of a multiple media manager. You and your smiling face don't mean a thing. Doesn't mean a thing. It don't mean nothing. It's your works that tells me who you are, and it's my works that tells you who I am. So you focus on that. Don't watch no smiling face, because that can't do nothing but deceive you. Remember I told you. Zoom. You and your smiley face doesn't mean a thing to me. You come round here with that smiley face, but it can't work no more. 'Cause after loving you, I had to run. 'Cause it's only a smile you've got. Spray, spray na 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 na, spray na 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 na, spray na. There's a girl with sky blue hair out the window. Wow, that's what I'm talking about. Sky blue hair.